My name is Autumn Wagner. I am the Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator at the Altoona Housing Authority, and today we're going to be talking about financial literacy. As you can see on the screen, I'm asking for you to put your name in the chat box along with who referred you to today's webinar. If you would like a copy of the PowerPoint that we go over today, just put your email address in the chat box and I'd be happy to email that to you. And then I have my own email listed here if you have any questions. Today we will be covering income tracking, spending tracking, increasing your income, a bill calendar along with prioritizing your bills, cutting expenses, understanding credit, and opening a bank account. We're just going to be lightly covering each of these subjects, and like I said, if you have any other questions, you can email me. So to start with, in order to gain or build financial literacy, we have to know what we have coming in. So what you should start with is gather all of your pay stubs, benefit statements, that would be Social Security, food stamps, cash assistance, anything like that, and records of any electronic payments. So if you have a direct deposit going into your bank from any of those things I've mentioned or anything else. You want to develop a form, something like what I have shown here as an example, and enter the amount of the income or benefits you receive next to the appropriate category on the week of the month that you receive them. Next, we want to think about strategies of increasing your income. Start with your skills and your resources. Do you have any skills that you could use to earn some income? Childcare, yard work? Are you a musician? Can you write? Are you good at crafting? Can you make things to sell? Do you have talents or hobbies that can be used to make things and sell them online? You don't always necessarily have to sell them online, but sometimes it's easier to post on the yard sale sites or things like that. Do you have a vehicle? Could you do a ride sharing service? Now we have grocery delivery and DoorDash, things like that. Those are all things to consider. Something I hear a lot of people talk about is donating plasma. It's a really good way to quickly get some income. And then can you trade any of your skills for a service you might need? For example, do you know someone that needs house cleaning or babysitting and could possibly fix your car for you? Perhaps you could come up with an arrangement and trade skills. You could, of course, look for a job opportunity. If you already have a job, ask for a raise or additional hours. You could look for part-time work, or this is particularly applicable this year with the COVID-19 and everything that's been happening. A lot of people are off of work. You could use that as an opportunity to find training or education so that when you get back to work, you have better opportunities. You could have a yard sale or a garage sale, sell some things online like clothing, household items, toys, books. It's really an endless list. You could grow and sell produce. Consider government options if you're not already utilizing them. Check to see if you're eligible for public benefits such as TANF cash assistance, SNAP food stamps, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment, free or reduced school lunches. The schools are currently offering in Altoona a food giveaway program where they give away food if you have minor children in the house that would normally be in school. You can order ahead of time and pick it up once a week. Make sure you learn about tax credits that you're eligible for. And another thing to think of is changing your tax withholding on your forms for payroll when you get a job or if you already have a job. One way that can benefit you is if you typically receive a large refund, you can change your withholding to less dependents so that you get more money in your paychecks. your refund will be a little bit smaller, but for those of you that get a large refund, it shouldn't be a huge difference. So the next step in creating financial literacy and starting to work toward a budget is to start tracking what you're spending. We've already talked about tracking what's coming in. Now you want to make sure you understand what's going out and when. Some good ways to do that is get a small container or envelope, and every time you spend money, whether that be on gas, food, toiletries, entertainment, tobacco if you're a tobacco user, anything at all, you keep the receipt and put it into that envelope or container. Do that for a month, and when you get to the end of the month, go through the receipts and make a similar form that we did for the income tracking and write down what you've been spending each week for every category. After you have that all written down for a month, you're going to want to analyze your spending a little more. Take a look at how much you're spending on eating out. Maybe there's some cutting you can do there and put that money into your grocery supply. It might last you a little bit longer. Transportation, if you're paying for an Uber, possibly a bus route would be cheaper for you if you're having trouble balancing your budget. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions during our webinar, please put them in the chat box. So aside from your everyday spending, we also want to keep track of your bills. You'll see kind of a similar tracking system here on the screen. You want to gather all of the bills you pay in 1 month, or if you've already put them on your spending tracker, you can use that information. You want to write in the date when you must send the payment or when the money must be taken out of your account if you have a bank account in advance of the due date. We don't want to be waiting until the due date when we're working on our tracking, because then you're going to end up with late fees and things. Just write down the name of the company, whether that be the gas company, water, cell phone, and who you owe the money to, and the amount that's due on the date that the bill must be sent so that it arrives on time. Make sure you put this calendar in all of your tracking forms that you're working on, somewhere that you can see them every day so you don't miss anything. Once you have all of your bills documented, you want to start prioritizing them. Some categories that I use to prioritize my bills are things that I need for work, such as transportation. That would be the car payment, the gas, the bus fare, equipment or uniform, and of course, childcare. You can't go to work to keep income coming in without those things. And for you, they might look a little different, and that's okay. Insurance that I need to pay. You need your health insurance, your car insurance, renter's or home insurance if you have those. And then things that you need for housing: rent, mortgage, property taxes, water bill, garbage, sewer, gas, and electric. And then there's the obligations that you have to pay but aren't necessarily sustaining your day-to-day life. That would be credit cards, loans, child support, court-ordered costs and fines. So now that you have all of this written down on paper for you to look at and analyze each month, now we want to talk about some ideas for cutting expenses and improving your cash flow. For car expenses, these can really add up, and you can get behind on them pretty easily. Something that seems small but actually could make a difference is to renew your license and registration, inspection, all of that on time. That way you avoid late fees. Keep up on the maintenance to reduce your car repair expenses. Make sure you're changing your oil when it's due. It seems like an unnecessary expense at the time, but it can help you down the line. Eating out is a big one. You can decide to take lunch to work instead of buying out every day. You can check for cost saving specials like kids eat free days or buy one entree, get one free. Make sure that you understand the service fees for any financial institution that you're using. Research if accounts charge maintenance fees, ATM fees, overdraft fees. And if they do, switch to a lower fee or no fee account. When you're researching credit cards, make sure you try to find one with no annual fee. For furniture and clothing, you can buy those things secondhand when possible, or wait until you see a sale if it's not something you need right away. For groceries and household supplies, use coupons. Buy in bulk when possible, or ask family and friends to do this with you to increase savings. There's places like Sam's Club where you can buy in bulk. You might not need that much, but if you go in and split the cost of a bulk package of something with someone else that also uses that item, both of you are going to save some money. For home energy expenses, some ways to cut expenses are to seek out energy programs. Locally, we have LIHEAP, the CAP program for gas, and PCAP for electric. Always, always, always ask your utility companies if they have budget plans available. For insurance, you can increase your deductible on your car insurance to lower your monthly premium. And make sure you frequently check for potential discounts, such as the student driver discount, multi-car, multi-policy. Avoid late fees. Try to pay your bills on time, no matter how difficult it can be sometimes, to avoid the late fees. If that doesn't work and your pays fall on a different day and it doesn't work out that you can pay your bills on time, always call those creditors and see if you can request a new due date. A lot of times they will help you do that because they're going to be getting the money that's owed to them by working with you. Regularly check on memberships that you might have signed up for and forgot about, or something you don't regularly use. And then just a little tip that I personally do with my budgeting. I'm paid bi-weekly, so I split my monthly payments into two smaller ones to better fit into the cash flow and my budget. And then comes the harder part. So now you want to try to align your expenses with your income. Use that cash flow budget that we worked on to enter your income, including the benefits. Use the cash flow budget that I'm showing here to enter your income and the benefits and expenses that we worked on the tracking forms. Try moving your expenses around to better align with your income in places where you're coming up short. So like I was saying, call the electric company and ask if it can be due on the 16th instead of the 6th, if that lines up better with when your money is coming in. And this is just an example of how a cash flow budget might look. You can see here that this individual started week 1 with $257. They brought in $220 from a part-time job and $412 in SNAP food stamps. And their total then was $889. They then went through for the week and listed all of their expenses. So their rent is $845. They spent $200 on groceries, $25 on eating out, $60 on fuel, $70 on childcare, and $50 on miscellaneous. As you can see, they end that week in a negative balance, negative $361. Now, the next week, they're going to get their paycheck from their full-time job, which is $990. So they're starting out a little bit better, but not much. And you can track through the rest of the month there the same way. And if I were this person, I would split that rent payment in half. I would start paying half of the following month's rent on week 2 instead of starting out in the hole, and then pay the other half in week 4. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Next, we're going to talk about understanding credit. This is a very complex subject, and I'm just going to be lightly touching on it. So, the difference between credit and debt is something that a lot of people aren't clear about. Credit is the ability to borrow money and repay it later, where debt is the money that you have to repay when you've used your credit. Edward, if you're confused about anything, please ask me a specific question and I'd be happy to help try and explain the best that I can. So why do your credit reports and scores matter? A poor credit history can make it difficult for you to do many things, such as get a job, get and keep a security clearance for a job, including the military, get an apartment, get insurance coverage, pay lower deposits on utilities, and get better terms on cell phone plans, obtain a credit card, and improve your credit score. Credit scores are calculated using the information in your credit report. A higher score obviously makes it easier to qualify for a loan or lower interest rates, but you do have many credit scores. This example that I'm showing you is based on a FICO credit score, which is just one of the places that you can get your score. It shows the percentages of how much each category determines your score. As you can see, payment history has the biggest impact on your credit score. Second highest impact would be amounts that you owe. And then we have length of credit history, types of credit, and new credit. Your scores are calculated by keeping track of your payment history, tracking whether you're paying your bills on time, amounts owed, and that includes debts that you are paying down over time. Length of credit history tracks how long you've had credit accounts. The longer the history, the more positive effect on your scores. Long credit history provides evidence of how you use credit and patterns of your payment behaviors. New credit is tracked by measuring credit inquiries, which is when you apply for credit. Too many inquiries may signal that you have a high demand for credit and may be an indicator of risk. So be careful applying for multiple credit cards at a time because that can lower your score. Now, this does not apply when you're checking your own credit. So if you get on to Credit Karma every day and check your credit, that does not count as an inquiry against your credit. Types of credit used is relatively important. It can increase your credit score if you have both revolving credit, such as credit cards, and other types of credit like mortgage, car loan, things like that. Having a mix of different types of credit is generally good for you. These are the 3 top nationwide credit reporting companies. And also you can get a free credit report from each of the 3 nationwide credit reporting companies once every 12 months at the web address listed here. And I'll give you a minute to jot that down if you want to. That web address is on the next slide in case you're still writing. So you'll go to this website, the www.annualcreditreport.com. You'll complete a form with your basic information like name, social security number, and address. Select the reports that you want. That would be Equifax, Experian, and or TransUnion, or you can do all three. Answer security questions. They'll often ask you your former addresses, amount of a certain loan you might have, phone numbers that have belonged to you, counties that you've lived in. If you are unable to answer one of those questions, then they will give you another method to prove that you are you. Once you receive your report, save a PDF version of your report. You can print it or save it to your computer or both. Make sure you do it in a safe and secure location. You don't want to go to the public library and check your credit report. So once you have your credit report, these are the things that you're going to see in it. You will see open accounts that you currently have and closed accounts that you had before. Most things do fall off of your credit after 7 years, but you will see mostly anything that you've had open in the last 7 years. You'll see the company name and account number, the date it was opened, the most recent activity, the type of account and status, the date it was closed if it is no longer open, your credit limit, and the date the information was reported to the credit reporting company. You want to read through each credit report carefully using the checklist as a guide and make sure you're looking for errors. The checklist of things you want to make sure are accurate: name, social security number, telephone number, address, previous address and employment history, bankruptcies, judgments or tax liens, accounts, if any, in collections, and the status of each account. Make sure that all accounts actually belong to you. The status, the accurate listing of authorized use, cosigner, or joint owner, and hard inquiries. If you find a mistake in your credit report, you can dispute it. What you want to do is gather any applicable documents. Print the credit report and highlight or circle any of the errors that you see. You want to show copies of anything that proves it's incorrect, such as a bill that shows that you made a payment on an account, or a final bill that shows a different amount than what your credit report is showing. You'll want to show a social security card, birth certificate, or other personal identification if the mistake relates to your identity. You can dispute an error in your credit report over the phone, by the mail, or online. You want to make sure that you clearly identify what the mistake is, state facts, and why you are disputing the information. Then you request that it be removed or corrected, whatever is applicable. And I put here an example of a dispute letter if you were to dispute through the mail. In that letter, you're going to be disputing one of the following things: that your report includes accounts with a reported name that is different than your own. You don't recognize one of the accounts. The report shows that you owed money to a company that you have already paid. The current status of your account is not correct. such as the report shows that you're delinquent, but you have made all of your payments on time. I'm the victim of identity theft and I don't recognize one or more of the accounts in my report. And then make sure you include that you've attached a copy of the report with the issues in question highlighted or circled. These are the online websites that you'll go to dispute any errors in your credit report, and I'll leave this up for a minute for you to copy. Some good habits for building and keeping good credit. Pay loan and utility bills on time every month. Reference that bill calendar that you're going to be working on to keep yourself on track. Always keep spending under the credit limit and stay away from, quote, maxing out your credit cards. Pay off your credit card balance on time each month. I know that that's difficult if you're in a position where you had to use your credit card for an emergency or something like that. In those cases, at least pay the minimum payment on time. But the ideal thing to do would be to only spend the credit card on things that you're already going to be spending cash on. That way you can pay it off every month. From this point forward, regardless of what may or may not have happened before you start working on your financial literacy and your budget, only apply for credit cards that you need. Always make sure that your credit report information, especially negative information, is accurate. And if it isn't, use the tools that I showed you to dispute them. Use credit building tools such as secured credit cards, credit building loans if you're new to using credit. And lastly, we're going to talk about opening a bank account. When you start out to find a financial institution, you want to make sure and identify these things listed here about that institution. You want to understand the services it offers. Does it offer checking and savings? If that's something that you need, you want to make sure they offer both. Make sure you understand the fees that it charges. You don't want to be using a bank card that's going to be charging you every time you're using the ATM if you're a person that uses the ATM several times a month. Check to see what interest it pays for savings accounts. Make sure you know the number of ATMs and branches near your home or work, their hours of operation, and of course, if there's a minimum balance requirement. I know that not everyone is able to have a bank account open because of some of the barriers I have listed here. Those would be lack of proper identification. Consider getting a state ID if you don't have a driver's license. That can be helpful with this obstacle. Negative information from checking account reporting companies. So separately from your credit report, the 3 systems I have listed here do keep record of any negative activity in bank accounts that you've had, such as unpaid negative balance, suspected fraud, previous joint account with someone else who had these problems. And those negative banking issues may stay on their records for 5 to 7 years. You can order copies of these reports online, by phone, or by mail. So if you go to open a checking account and they tell you that on one of these systems you've had a flag and they can't allow you to open an account, ask for a copy of that report so that you can dispute it if it's not accurate, just like your credit report. In addition to barriers to opening a checking account, once you're able to, there are some benefits. Obviously, it's a secure place to keep your money. You can make purchases without carrying cash or going into debt with credit cards. It's a low cost and easy way to pay and manage your bills. Rather than going to pay for a money order or paying the fees at a Western Union, you can use your bank account to pay your bills on the phone or online. You can pay bills online very easily from your mobile device. You don't have to have a computer. And you can keep track of your balances and your spending with an online bank account. Another benefit is direct deposit instead of having to worry about fees for a prepaid card that you may be having your check deposited to, or paying a fee to cash your check every payday. You can have your checks deposited into your bank account. Locally, these are some of the banks that we work with, that I help my participants get accounts with, and that I know of personally as well. Many of these banks offer classes on financial literacy, credit building, budgeting, all of the things that we're talking about today. So after you've done everything that we talked about today, tracking your income, tracking your expenses, keeping track of your bills and prioritizing them, maybe coming up with some new ways to earn some income, you want to sit down and look at everything in front of you and really identify what your current financial situation is. If you have a lot of outstanding debt, or if your cash flow isn't doing well and you're running out of money every week, you want to sit down and identify those problems and what exactly you want to improve or change, and use the resources available to you to implement that change. Like I said, I can send you a copy of this PowerPoint if you need it, even if you are watching the recorded version of this webinar. My email is on the very beginning, one of the first slides. Email me and I'm happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoint. For those of you that are with me live today, you can put your email address in the chat and I will email you a copy of the PowerPoint. It will have all these links. I've included here just some financial tools that I use personally and that I work with my participants on. Dave Ramsey is a financial expert, and a lot of his pointers and ideas are really great. Every Dollar is a budgeting tool that you can download an app on your phone. There's lots of resources here. Thank you, Edward, for your email address. I will send you the PowerPoint when we're done here today. And for those of you watching the recorded version of the webinar, just shoot me an email at awagner@altoonahousing.org, and I will send you the PowerPoint if you need or answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much for joining me today for this webinar. I hope you have a wonderful day. And Edward, I'll be emailing you in a few minutes.